When you think of the Blue Hills, you might think of taking leisurely walks with friends and family. But for some people, the Blue Hills is an amazing training ground for some pretty intense athletics. Today, you're going to hear this perspective of an ultra marathon runner who primarily trains in the Blue Hills. I'm Judy Laird-Jacobs, the Executive Director of the Friends of the Blue Hills, and I'm here with David Dobrindt, who is an avid runner, as well as the incoming president of the Friends of the Blue Hills. And if you want to vote him in and see other people who love the Blue Hills, I encourage you to come to our annual celebration October 5th in Milton. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but for now, if you would be willing to put in the comments whether or not you exercise in the Blue Hills, whether you come to the Blue Hills for exercise. A yes or no would be great, and if you'd let us know what you do, that would be even better. If you have any comments throughout this live video, just leave them in the comment section, and you can also leave comments during the replay. This is the second of our Facebook Live videos called Blue Hills Alive, and we hope you join us next week, Tuesday at 1 p.m. And the following week, there'll be 2 more that's left. So David, can you start out by letting us know what is an ultramarathon and what got you into running such long distances?
Sure. Yep. So first, Judy, thanks for having me, and thanks for watching this today on Facebook Live. So I'm Dave Dobrindt. I'm on the board and I'm the incoming president, so it's my pleasure to be here. So I'll sort of reverse that. The reason I got into running long distances, I moved to Milton in 2002. We had a 6-month-old daughter, and all of us, when we get out of college and post-college activity, we get away from exercise. So what I found was when we moved here, I was not as healthy as I wanted to be. So after getting the house in order and spending time making sure our lives were set, I started running to lose weight. And what I realized was I had always gone the same distance, 6 miles maybe, at most maybe 7 or 8 miles. And then one day I just ran more. I ran 10 miles, and the next week I ran 14 and then 20. And the weight came off, and what I realized is I loved being out there. So I got in with a group of friends who were marathon training, and I ran my first marathon or trained for my first marathon in 2006. That got me hooked, and then just a few years later, my friend Steve Murray and I are like, do you want to run a 50-miler? Let's try it. So we ran Stone Canyon Ipswich. It was a great experience, and then that just got me on this journey of running. So an ultra marathon is technically anything over 26.2 miles, so that's a marathon level. So if you run 27 miles, technically you wouldn't run an ultra marathon. Most people think of the 50K distance, which is 31 miles, 50 miles or a 100-miler as the standard for ultra running. So I do all those distances. I typically do one of those a year plus a marathon. And then at this point I've run about 20 ultras as well as some adventure distance runs like the Grand Canyon Double Cross.
Great. So you do a lot of your training in the Blue Hills. What are some of the challenges of running in the Blue Hills?
Yeah, fortunately I live about 1.5 miles from one of the trailheads, the one by the Boy Scout camp. And I run about 3,000 miles a year, and probably at least half or 2/3 of that is here in the Blue Hills. 7,000 acres, 125 miles of trails, access to bathrooms and water. You can park your car anywhere in the Blue Hills, so you can leave food or change your clothes or something. The challenge, there's 2 kind of challenges. One is not unique to the Blue Hills, and that's just trail running in general. So if you're going to go out and run a 3-mile or you're going to go out for 30 miles, trail running is much more challenging than street running because you could fall. There are these things on the ground, rocks, roots, and branches and trees and stuff like that. So anyone who's trail run for a period of time, you've fallen. The thing that's unique about the Blue Hills, trail running here, and it's also one of the benefits, is the amount of activity that goes on here. So if you stay at the popular areas like behind Hopeless Pond or between the police barracks and the Trailside Museum, there's a lot to navigate. So if you're running on the popular trails, you're going to be running with hikers, bike riders, children, dogs, horses in some spots. So the only real challenge is picking the trails based on what you want to do. If you want to be alone, go somewhere else. If you want to be with people, stay in the popular areas.
That's great. So if you have any questions for David about ultra marathons, just leave them in the comments. So one question that people often have is, can you give people some tips for running in the Blue Hills?
Sure, yep. Single biggest tip I can give is to download a trail map, laminate it, fold it up, and keep it whatever you take with you when you run, whether it's a backpack or water belt. Blue Hills is really unique. On most of the trailheads and trail intersections, there's a four-number piece of wood tacked about 8 or 10 feet up. And on the trail map, it shows you where that is on the map. So if you can find that on your map, what you're looking at, run to the next one, you'll know exactly where you are. So people are concerned about running in the Blue Hills because it is 7,000 acres. I mean, it's big. They're worried about getting lost. But if you have a trail map with you, you can always find out where you are and figure out where to go. So I've spent, more than a dozen years running in the Blue Hills. I spent a lot of time here. I still carry a map with me. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're going to go out for long distances, 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles, the Blue Hills is a great place to find these hidden nuggets of treasures, these little pearls. There are so many interesting things in the Blue Hills that people don't know about, like the Nike missile site or the CCC camp from the 30s. You can really explore, and that's what I tell people. I say, don't go on the same trails over and over. Don't go around Ponkapock 10 times. Fan out and go find stuff.
That's great advice. So there are a lot of people on the trails, hikers, bikers, horseback riders. Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate?
Yeah, so I run with a group of guys, or a group of friends. So we talk about this a lot because, of course, runners are the most courteous people out there. So the one thing about hikers, since this happens especially around Ponkapock, I just make fun of it, but on Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings, people get out there because they like how quiet it is. And when you run up on someone, you startle them, and it's just an awful way for somebody to spend their morning. So the first thing is, you're coming up on a hike up by themselves, just announce yourself. So usually what I'll say is, I love your jacket, or I'll say good morning, or good afternoon, or passing on your left, so that if it's a smaller trail, you know where to go. The thing about mountain bikers are a different kind of challenge for runners, because they're obviously coming behind us really fast. And they are on these single track trails where you can't pass someone unless someone gets off the trail. So what they do is, most of them are good guys, and they'll say passing on your left, or coming up on you. So we get off the trail. So bikes have the right of way. So the runners should get off the trail, let them pass. If you are passing them like they're struggling to get up a hill, it's hard for them to get off the trail and wait. So what we typically do is we go around them, get off the trails into the woods. The horses are kind of a different issue because they're such big animals, and you don't want to spook them. So what we do, 100% of the time, we stop running. And we announce ourselves if we're behind them, but if we're face to face, they see us coming, we stop and we walk by the horse. And most of the riders will say, you can keep running, the horse will be fine, but I'm not going to take a chance with an animal that big. And then the rest of it, people walk dogs all the time, and whether you like it or not, the dogs could be off leash. We keep running. We assume dogs are voice command trained. We assume the dogs aren't going to come after us. Some of the puppies will want to play, and you have to worry about tripping, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Wow. A lot to think about when you're out on the trail. What's the hardest trail you've ever run?
Yeah, for anyone who's hiked here, Skyline Trail, it's the Blue Trail, is a section of it are unrunnable, to be honest. It's a great challenge, but it's really technical. It's very rocky. To really get speed, at least for me, I'm not as skilled of a trail runner as some other people. I can't fly in it. And typically when I get out here, I want to get some speed, and I want to run for a long period of time. And the Blue Line, the Skyline Trail, it's just too technical for me to run, so that's a challenge.
Do you have any favorite trails that you like to run?
So in 2013, the mountain bike guys built a trail from Chickatawba Road. I think the marker is 2153. And it's this gentle switchback up to Buck Hill. Now, Buck Hill is my single favorite spot in the Blue Hills. I tell people, there's one thing you're going to do if they're from out of state. Go to Buck Hill. So this switchback is just this gently switchback, single track. It's pretty. It's not too challenging, so hikers can bring their kids up there. So getting up there, you can run the whole way. It's about a mile, and then running down, you can really have some fun by hopping over the rocks and the trees and stuff. It's a great ride.
So what's the coolest thing you've ever seen in the Blue Hills? You've been all over.
Been all over. We've never seen anything that shouldn't be in it. Something that a human would have brought in, like an old car. Up in Willowdale State Forest, and there's a car in the middle of it that's been there for like 4 years. So you don't get any of that. I call it nonsense, but you don't get like dumping. one thing we did see, which I didn't think I ever would, we were running from our house, going down Blue Hill Park, we crossed Canton Avenue, so we were on Unkley, just past Woolen's skating rink, and off on the left, you might not know this, but there are trails that lead up there. And, you know, it's DCR land, but it's not deep until you get to the houses or the town farm. So my friend Steve and I were up there, and we, you know, had time, miles to go, so we just took off up the trail. And a couple hundred yards in, we saw this black cat off into the woods, kind of like slithering. It was kind of large.